Going to have some excitement here, Brad. Example?
We will try to bring the rest of the skaters to you when we get a chance. For now, we're got action going on the track. Heupel going to the outside, pushing at the top of the pack. Held back, Beastie Bob still struggling with the Canada pack. First lead jammer of the game is Heupel. But Beastie Bob tries to get out on the inside line, does not succeed. Pushed to the infield, has to recycle. That gives Heupel time to engage the pack for points and escapes with all 5. So first blood to Team Canada. 5 on the board so far.
Team Canada coming into 1 seed in this group, so not unexpected for them to perform well against either Argentina, which they beat earlier, and Denmark.
Beastie Bob still struggling at the back of the pack with the Canadian blockers, but Denmark's own blockers able to push Heupel into the outfield where she recycles. Beastie Bob almost makes it out, pushed out of bounds, comes back in legally, and is clear to score. That's going to limit Heupel to 2 scoring passes, each of them for 5 points, and we have 10-0 on the board to start off.
So first blood to Canada as they look to book their passage into the championship bracket on Saturday. They will get Friday off. Denmark will play against Argentina tomorrow. We're going to get number 420. That is Meliwana for Canada, jamming up against number 55.
Bay.
That is Bay.
Yes.
Bay from Copenhagen roller derby. Meliwana, of course, from the new Skids on the Block from Montreal roller derby.
So the obligatory 30 seconds between jams elapse, and immediately into the action. Once again, it is the Canadian jammer, Meliwana, who pushes hard at the top of the pack. Number 707, Lal, blocker for Denmark, heading to the notorious R80 penalty box. Meliwana breaks the pack, lead jammer, second in a row for Canada.
A nice defense by Denmark, holding her in there for the first 20 seconds there, Brad.
And now it is Bay pushing, but Bay called for a track cut, and we have our first power jam of the game in only the second jam. That lets Meliwana pick up 5 on the scoring pass. Pack mostly at a standstill, just outside turn number 3. Denmark blockers at the front, Canada blockers at the back. Meliwana able to keep her skates inside the boundary line, and therefore legally passing all of her opponents 5 more points for Canada.
Canadians playing full passive now, a little bit of aggression going on there to spring that wall forward.
Meliwana helping to make her own hole as blockers for Denmark go flying both directions. 5 more points, but the power jam is over with Bay back on the track. However, Bay has not completed her initial pass, so Meliwana has time for more points, which she intends to pick up. There, Bay goes out. She is clear to score. That's enough for Meliwana, who picks up 4 more and calls it.
Those 4 points are going to put Canada up to 29-0 early on in this game. Again, the Canadian defense is still going to have to be careful, though, because as Bay came out of the penalty box, there was that gap on the inside that allowed her to get out of the pack and forcing her to call it off. Third jam of the game is going to see number 12-23. That's Kim Jana from Terminal City. Team Canada jamming against number 97, Pedersen.
Pedersen held up at the back of the pack by the Canadian blockers. Kim Jana out the top of the pack, standout jammer from Terminal City. She is already coming around 4 points. Passes up Pedersen and earns the jammer lap point. Some resistance from Denmark, but it's a grand slam for Kim Jana. But now Pedersen gets out of the pack as well. That's going to limit the damage that Kim Jana can do. Pack moving now through turn 2, heading for turn 3 down the straightaway. Pedersen wants points. She's going to try and pick up all the ones that she can. Kim Jana still just now completing the scoring pass for 4, and has to decide whether to stop it now. Decides to keep going, collides with Pedersen there in turn 2. Jana trusting to her blockers to hang on to Denmark's jammer Pedersen, number 97. Number 797, Miss Main, hanging on to Jana at the top of the pack with an assist by number 9, Kimmer. But now Jana is out, grabs all 5 on that pass. Half a minute remains on the jam clock. This is going to take Denmark out of null points, but it's still going to be a jam win for Canada. Jana held up at the back of the pack. Again, it's Kimmer holding on to her. Actually, I believe we see a star pass from Pedersen to Cater, number 5 of Denmark. Jana through for 5 additional points. And the pack moving for turn number 1 right now. Time expires on the jam. They did go the full time. 1 additional point for Canada, but 3 on the board now for Denmark.
So Canada electing to run that jam for full 2 minutes. I think they liked the matchup that they had out there. Kim Jana, probably the premier jammer on Team Canada. They want to get her worked out. They have a nice full 48 hours basically to rest before they have to play on Saturday. Want to make sure that she is in peak form. Now Watson taking the star for Team Canada, and that is number 9.
Number 8,
Number
I think.
8, sorry.
So number 8, Chris with the star for Denmark.
From Aarhus Roller Derby.
Both packs very effective this time out at containing their opposing jammers. Watson not finding it quite as easy to get through the pack as some of the other Team Canada jammers have so far. But at the same time, a very difficult time out there for Chris trying to get through. Chris from the Aarhus Derby Danes. And lead jammer ends up going to Watson, completing her initial pass. We are 4 for 4 for Canada on lead calls in the game so far.
Yeah, Watson retiring this year. This is going to be her last roller derby that she plays in her career, Brad.
There's a lot of retirements after this event, I've noticed.
Yes.
5 points for Watson on the Grand Slam pass. Still have Chris in the pack, recycled through the outfield. Denmark blockers at the top of the pack, doing the raced style of blocking we've come to expect during this year of roller derby. Kimmer, Chris pushing on the infield, recycled by number 33, Amanda Lashing. Chris effectively bouncing off blockers at the back. Konichiwa now is going to push Chris into the outfield, and that gives Watson time to complete a Grand Slam, the second of this jam. Action back between the jammer and pivot lines. Chris does not get a track cut call for that re-entry into the track. She went down and waited for the other skater to get back up. 5 more for Watson at the end of the jam. Total of 15 on the jam.
Yeah, we're talking about retirement. Smack Daddy picking up a forearm on the previous jam. She absolutely laid out Flying Panini, but picked up a penalty for her treble. She was the MVP of the 2011 Blood and Thunder World Cup. She will be retiring at the end of this event as well. We've got ourselves an official review, it looks like.
The clock is stopped at 11 minutes and 52 seconds, remaining in our first 20-minute period of this game.
And again, Canada with a very strong first performance against Argentina earlier on. They played at 9:10 a.m. Dallas time, scoring a win of 291-50 over Argentina. So if they can go on for a victory here, they will finish first in pool number 6, group number 6. We should give some love to our sponsors.
Why, by all means.
That's one of the reasons you're able to sit at home and watch this roller derby, because we have sponsors who are helping us out. Derby for All, taking you to the next level. They are helping out the Blood and Thunder Roller Derby World Cup. Also, Roll Line. You have to give some love to them. You can check them out. roll-line.it. That's over in Italy.
In fact,
And they're sponsoring one of the tracks as well, Brad.
exactly. Track number 1, sponsored by Roll Line. You are watching track number 2 at the Roller Derby World Cup, sponsored by Blood and Thunder Magazine, the overall sponsors event. And we're getting some word now from the officials as to what is happening on the track. And so I'll let you talk to our liaison there, Captain Lou. I will mention that queued up for the next jam, we have number 989 Heipel with the star for Team Canada, taking on number 16 Beastie Bob.
We saw this matchup in the first jam of the game. We'll see if we can get some clarification on what happened on that official review.
Their official review by Denmark. Thank you for joining us for the 2014 Blood and Thunder Roller Derby World Cup live coverage from the Dallas Convention Center in Dallas, Texas.
So the challenge was on a cut to the Canadian jammer. So they said both her feet came in. The referee said only one of them came in, so not a track cut.
Already back into roller derby action. Sarah Heipel through the pack lead jammer for Canada, wasting no time in doing so and hurtling through the pack pretty much without slowing down for the Grand Slam. Beastie Bob having some trouble, but now going to the inside and through herself. Going to apply some pressure, probably limiting Canada to one more pass. And on advice from the sidelines, Heipel calls it off, but yes, she does get it called off before Beastie Bob is able to steal any points.
Just in time. Heipel picking up another 4 in that jam, 9 for Sarah Heipel on that jam. Add that to the 10 she had in the first jam of the game. That's 19 of the 73 points scored. We're going to get number 420. That's Meliwana jamming against Bay for Denmark. 70-point lead, 10 minutes and 43 seconds remaining in the first half.
So far, these teams each sticking to a 4-jammer rotation. Up at the top of the pack, first jammer out, lead jammer is in fact Meliwana. That's continuing the trend. All 6 jams of the game so far have seen lead earned by Canada. Jammers have been pretty clean so far, though, with only 1 jammer penalty that I have seen. Bay is out of the pack. That is going to, again, limit the damage that Canada can do, and in fact, Meliwana is going to call it off as soon as she gets out of the pack with 4 points, taking them to 77, but still single digits, 3 points for Denmark, halfway through our first period.
So a single scoring pass for Canada. They increase their lead by a little bit. Denmark has to take some solace in the fact that they've been able to get their jammer out of the pack on a fairly regular basis. They haven't had any of those big, long 2-minute shutdowns except for that one earlier on when Kim Jana was out there. We got Kim Jana out there once again against Pedersen.
That's the same matchup for
it is.
From that previous jam, which saw Pedersen ending up passing the star to Cater. And Kim Jana repeats and gets lead for the Canadians. Pedersen stuck behind the block. She does a little defensive jamming. She tries to deflect Jana into the outfield, does not succeed, and Jana is now contending with Cater at the top of the pack. Goes to the inside and collects the Grand Slam.
That was nice work by Harvey opening up the wall for Kim Jana.
Pack remains tight, moving through turn 2, and Jana scoots right past a couple of Denmark blockers and collects 5 more points. Track cut assessed to one of Denmark's blockers. Coming around, we can see that that's number 9, Kimmer. 5 again for Kim Jana. The star pass has occurred for Denmark. Pedersen has passed the star to the pivot, which is number 797, Miss Main. However, Miss Main still stuck in the pack on her initial pass, and in fact now called for a track cut, which she will serve as the jammer.
So big opportunity for Kim Jana to really extend this lead for Canada right now.
So Kim Jana is the one who's managed to grab the really huge jams for Canada thus far, and is continuing 30 points on the jam so far, and if she can get through again in the next 5 seconds, even more than that. And she in fact does get into the pack
Just bumped to the outside by Kimmer as time runs out on the jam. 4 more points for Kim Jana and Team Canada. That's going to roll them up to 111. A solid 34-point jam for Kim Jana. Add that to the 20 she had earlier. That's 54 of the 111 points that Canada has. We've got 7 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in the first half. Watson's going to take the star for Team Canada, and still in the notorious RD penalty box is Miss Main.
Miss Main, the recipient of the star pass in the previous jam for Denmark. 7 minutes on the clock and a few seconds. Action on the track. Miss Main comes back out, but not before Watson escapes as lead jammer. Watson coming around. Miss Main in the pack trying to find her way through. She has removed the star. No, she has not.
Nope.
Recycled through the outside. So if you are tuning in, the red with black accents is Canada, and all black with a little bit of white is Denmark. Four points for Watson on that pass. And Miss Main called for a back block.
Watson threw for another 5 points before Miss Main can get back to the notorious RD penalty box. The power jam is just starting right now as she sits.
So this is the third power jam of the game for Canada, by my count. Highly unofficial statistics, I have to add. 5 more for Watson. The pack is hanging out now in turn number 3, waiting for the jammer's arrival. 4-3 pack advantage for Canada. Watson calls it off.
3 more points for Team Canada. That'll put them at 128. That was a 17-point jam for Watson. Over on the Denmark side, number 707 Lal has been doing a really nice job of blocking on the track for Team Denmark. So we'll have to see how she matches up against Argentina tomorrow with the efforts that she's able to put against Team Canada. It's going to be Sarah Heipel taking the star for Team Canada again. Miss Main starting in that notorious RD penalty box.
So this is Miss Main's third jam in a row holding the star. She was already standing, so her penalty has now expired, but Heipel had time to get through for lead, extending Canada's streak to 9. She's coming into the pack pretty hot, encountering resistance at the top of the pack from Denmark's blockers. They are slowing her down considerably. But the consequence of that is leaving Miss Main to fend for herself against Canada's blockers back at the jammer line. Grand slam for Heipel.
Yeah, Hughes with a nice bump to the inside. Mangleyu cycles Miss Main all the way back. Heipel back around, scoring again, Brad.
Out the top of the pack, 5 again for Canada, and again Miss Main recycled through the infield. Maya Mangleyu taking the lion's share of the blocking right here. We have had a star pass from Miss Main to number 16, Beastie Bob. Beastie Bob still within the pack. 5 again for Heipel coming out of the pack. That is 20 so far on the jam. And now Canada's blockers, well aware of the star pass, have turned their attention to Beastie Bob.
Back block to Sarah Heipel's going to send her to the notorious RD penalty box. We've got a power jam for Denmark. 30 seconds left in the jam, so a real opportunity for Beastie Bob to put points up for Denmark now, Brad.
This is the first power jam for Denmark. They still have a full pack of Canada blockers to contend with. They have managed to push number 658 Hughes to the back, and are trying to trap her to force the release of Beastie Bob on a no-pack call. Time, however, on the jam expires too soon. Yet she managed to pass all 5 blockers, so 8 points now total on the board for Team Denmark.
And on top of that, Sarah Heipel still in the notorious RD penalty box. So this will be a power start for number 8 Kimmer for Denmark. So another opportunity to perhaps get lead jam or control the destiny of this jam. We're down to about 2.5 minutes remaining in the first half. 150 for Canada, 8 for Denmark.
Actually, a fresh
That's
jammer
Lal now,
on the line there, number 707, Lal.
Yeah, they switched up at the last second, Brad.
The power jam is over with Heupel back on the track for Canada, and she goes through the inside to pick up lead.
So Denmark trying to switch things up, not quite working out for them.
Victoria's RD penalty box empty at this moment. And Lal manages to get out of the pack. So Heupel completes her scoring pass for 4 points and calls it off. That is one of the lower scoring jams for Canada in quite some time.
154 to 8 is the score. 1 minute 40 seconds remaining in the first half. 5 on 5 magazine, one of the sponsors of the Blood and Thunder Roller Derby World Cup. We thank 5 on 5. It's going to be Bay taking the star for Denmark, and number 420, that is Meliwana for Team Canada.
Bay pushed to the outfield as Meliwana gets out the top of the pack, extending Canada's lead jam streak. On the outside, Bay trying to keep her skates in bounds and dance along the boundary line of the track. 5 points for Meliwana coming through the pack. And Bay is almost makes it out, does make it out. She's absolutely cleared to score now, getting past Maya Mangolyu at the front of the pack. 4 points for Meliwana. Continues to skate. The clock is certainly on Canada's side right now. They can afford to let Denmark pick up some points here and maintain a very serious lead into halftime. Just about 30 seconds on the jam, or on the period clock, and an additional 30 seconds on the jam clock. Meliwana pushing at the top of the pack, gets past number 116, Mean Christine, to earn all 5 points. Bay trying on the outside line now. Goes up to her toe stops and falls back out of bounds and has to recycle. Meliwana, on the other hand, managing to stay inbounds and collect 5 points.
Time has run out on the period clock. We're on the jam clock now, Brad.
And we have Bay pushing right up the middle. Maya Mangolyu is the primary impediment there. And Meliwana calls it off with 2 more points. Denmark has 3 on the jam, taking them into double digits, 11 points to 173 for Canada. And that will take us into halftime, Captain Lou.
A fairly substantial lead for Canada. Again, I'm not sure this was unexpected. Perhaps the Denmark fans were hoping for an upset. But Canada is one of the forces at this tournament, probably considered one of the top 4 teams. By virtue of coming in second at the 2011, they got to be part of this sort of the bye group that they're part of. They only have 2 teams in this group, which means that they don't have to play as many games. Group number 7, and they have already defeated Argentina, so if they can go on to defeat Denmark, they will move on to Saturday, where they will go into the championship bracket. Now that championship bracket is the differential matters.
Yes.
The first they will play a 2-seeded team in their first round. When you get down to the group of 8, they reseed everybody based on the differentials. So this score matters for Team Canada.
And even if Canada hangs on here and is able to defeat Denmark, it's 2 teams that advance from each group. And so we have to see how Denmark matches up to Argentina before we know the outcome of this group.
Yeah, Argentina able to put 50 points up against Canada, losing by 241. So we'll see what Denmark can do in the second half. Brad Example, I think we'll take a little bit of a break.
We'll be back with you at the 2014 Blood and Thunder Roller Derby World Cup. Way to taking out Denmark. They give the jammer start to number 989 Sarah Heupel for this first jam of the second period, taking on number 16 Beastie Bob for Denmark.
Matchup we are somewhat familiar with, I believe.
We have seen that. In fact, it's a repeat of the very first jam of the whole game.
Everyone's right back to their original lines.
I've noticed that tends to happen.
Yeah.
Play action. Heupel goes to the inside line, gets through lead jammer for Canada. Beastie Bob pushing against now a 2-skater defense, 3-skater defense by Canada. Heupel into the pack, ducks around first Cater and then Panzer, and picks up 5 points. Beastie Bob still struggling. It's all 4 Canadian blockers now that are hanging onto her, squeezing her between them. Dropping down now to number 2, Lil Mama. And Beastie Bob assessed a track-cutting penalty, doesn't realize it yet. And so she is attempting to jam. She hasn't quite realized that she's got a track cut.
Oops.
And that earned her an additional insubordination penalty, so she'll be spending 60 seconds sitting down.
It's like an old school penalty.
5 points for Heupel.
Yeah, not exactly the way Denmark wanted to start off the second half, giving up a power jam, allowing Sarah Heupel to continue to extend this lead. We'll see how the defense holds.
So far, our defense able to hang on to Heupel for longer than they have in a little while. Once again, it is Cater and Panzer who are the last line of defense for Denmark. Denmark trying to bridge out to the remainder of the pack. They're able to push Heupel into the outfield. She recycles. Heupel trying now on the inside line, pushed into the outside by Ms. Main.
Just manages to keep her second skate from going inbounds. Would have been a track cut if she had done it. 5 more points for Sarah Heupel.
Calling off the jam.
So 190 points for Team Canada now to 11 for Denmark, 15-point jam. If you're wondering, is that the Sarah Heupel? I think it is. Yes, it is. She is Canadian, played for Detroit, currently a Texecutioner. Is actually one of the co-captains of this team with Kenichi Wow, who is also wearing the stripe in this jam. She's got Meliwana wearing the star, or the maple leaf as it were, for Team Canada.
Beastie Bob, number 16, still in the penalty box for Denmark. Just now standing up, indicating fewer than 10 seconds remaining on her penalties. Meliwana through for lead. And if you're wondering, is that the Kenichi Wow I'm thinking of? Yes, that is really the Windy City skater, affectionately known as K-Wow. Push to the infield, Meliwana recycling back behind number 12, Rode for Denmark. Beastie Bob trying to get through on her initial pass, but is deflected to the outfield. Called for a track cut. That was Kenichi Wow moving backwards, trying to lure Beastie Bob into entering the track too early. Successfully did so.
Back-to-back penalties for Beastie Bob. Back-to-back power jams for Team Canada.
That means we, just in this last jam, have seen 3 penalties, or last 2 jams have seen 3 penalties assessed to Beastie Bob. That is remarkable for this game, which was super, super clean at halftime. Only 1 skater with 2 penalties and everybody else with 1 or fewer. 5 points for Meliwana on that pass. 15 on the jam so far, and Canada has broken into the 2-century mark. 2 more points as Meliwana calls it off. Total of 207 on the board.
It was a 17-point jam. Jam getting called off just in time to keep Beastie Bob in the notorious RED penalty box. Next jam will be brought to you by Roller Bones, and it's going to see Kim Jana with the leaf on her helmet being the jammer of record for Team Canada. Again, Beastie Bob standing in the notorious RED penalty box. She'll be released in under 10 seconds.
In fact, Beastie Bob, the only Denmark skater to wear the star for them this period.
Yes, this is true.
Kim Jana extending Canada's lead call streak. They have earned lead in every jam of the game so far, losing it once to a penalty. Beastie Bob back on the track, pushing at the back of the pack. Kim Jana goes up on toe stops to try and get along the inside line. She apparently manages to keep them in bounds because she is awarded 5 points and comes around to score again. Beastie Bob removing the star, passing it to the pivot, who is number 55, Bay. And now Bay is clear of the pack, puts on the star. 4 points for Jana on that pass. And unless Jana calls it off right quick, she's probably going to pick up some points. In fact, she does. That's a 4-point pass for Denmark. Jana recycled through the infield, now calls it off after picking up 3 herself.
So a bit of a miss there. Kim Jana probably should have called that off. 4-3 advantage on that final pass to Denmark. Of course, Bay has been part of the jammer rotation, I believe, for Denmark, so always a good idea to put a jammer out in a pivot stripe, especially when a jammer is having trouble, as Beastie Bob was having. Lal, who had a great first half blocking, is coming out as a jammer again in the second half for Denmark. That's Watson for Team Canada.
19-15 at the moment. Lal held up at the back of the pack. Out the front of the pack is Watson, the jammer. Pack moves into turn number 2. Lal having trouble with the Canada blockers. 5 points to Watson. Denmark blockers trying to form a 3-wall at the back of the pack. A back blocking call on Watson, and once again they will lose lead jammer status, and a power jam goes to Lal, but Lal still on her initial pass.
That back block call coming from the outside, missed trial making that call. Power jam for Denmark proceeds.
Jam will go a full 2 minutes, of which 1 minute remains. Lal pushed into the outfield by Kenichi Wow. Pass to recycle. Now we see number 3X Smack Daddy teaming up with number 18 Mackenzie at the front of the pack.
With Demand the Lashing also providing a 2-wall with KWOW at the back as well.
We're all trying to go to the inside line, pushed out of bounds. Recycled back behind the pack. Watson already back on the track after 30 seconds in the notorious RED penalty box. Through the pack, 4 points for Canada.
The penalty not slowing down the scoring for Canada anyways.
15 seconds remaining on the jam clock. Lal finally gets out of the pack and is clear to score. Might have time to get in for a point or two. 4 points for Watson on the pass. Lal just barely getting her hips past Kenichi Wow. 1 point, and she's happy to take it.
Yeah, picked up that single. KWOW came back and put a big hit on her, but in coming back actually gave up her point. She might have been better off to stay up ahead. That single moves Denmark up to 16. Canada at 232. Nice jam for Watson. It's going to be Sarah Heipel going up against number 97, Pedersen.
So that's the first time in this period for Pedersen taking the star. It is Heipel who gets out first, lead jammer. Packs remain tight over in turn number 1. Pedersen goes in, hits the floor, gets back up. Took her a second or two, but apparently not injured. She's back behind the pack, contending with Canada's blockers, while Heipel is pushing at the top of the pack.
Nice quick star pass, Brad.
Yes, indeed. Star pass from Pedersen to number 9, Kimmer, for Denmark. Out of the pack and clear to score. Trying to staunch the bleeding of points. However, Heipel continuing to just push through the pack. A forearm penalty against Kimmer gives a power jam to Heipel.
Yeah, she came in a bit too hot, Brad. Used that arm to move a blocker out of the way, and that sends her to the notorious RD penalty box.
Heipel recycled through the infield this time. Now we see number -8.
That's Jess Bandit, also known as Peter Nostril.
Taking a seat in the notorious RD penalty box for Canada. 3 points were earned by Denmark on the jam. No further points for Canada as the jam is called off. Total of 10-3, advantage Canada on the jam.
But Denmark able to score points in the last 3 jams in a row. They're not really closing the gap, but they got to be happy that their jammers are able to get into a scoring position to pick up those points. This next jam is going to be brought to you by the Bruised Boutique Skate Shop. That's going to be number 420, Meliwana, taking the star for Team Canada.
Serious jammer penalty trouble for Denmark in this half after such a clean first half. In all but one of the jams this period, there has been a power jam for Canada, continuing as we speak. Meliwana through the pack on her initial pass, lead jammer, and now on a first scoring pass for 5 points. Some activity picking up in the packs now. Kimmer, number 9, still with the star for Denmark after receiving the star pass in the previous jam. 5 for Meliwana, getting out of the pack, checking to see that her star is still in place.
A lot of contact in that pack.
Kimmer appears to have passed the star. I cannot yet see the pivot.
Yep.
The pivot is Chris, number 8. And she is out of the pack right behind Meliwana. Meliwana earning 5 points for that, and Chris earning the ability to score points. So Chris into the pack, is picking up points, extending actually the streak of jams in which Denmark has at least scored. 4 for Meliwana, completing the pass. Action is tight just outside turn number 1. Very defensive work there. Meliwana goes up to toe stops, calls off the jam. Looks like 3-3.
That is correct, Brad.
On the
Example.
pass.
258 for team, or 259 for Team Canada, 22 for Denmark, so they've equaled their score from the first half. Still 8 minutes remaining in this game. Again, Denmark needs to use this opportunity to gel as a team, prepare for their game against Argentina tomorrow. They're sending Beastie Bob back on the line, going up against Kim Jana.
We've seen this matchup a few times already in this game. Beastie Bob.
She had a bit of a rough start to the second half.
Yes. Beastie Bob pushing at the back. Kim Jana, lead jammer. Kim Jana from the Terminal City Roller Girls. Well known to the roller derby community. Denmark able to put up some defense on this particular jam, hanging on to Jana at the back of the pack while Beastie Bob tries to get out of the front.
They have very spirited defense back there, Brad, just shutting Kim Jana down.
In particular, looks like Jana does get out for the Grand Slam there. Number 658 Hughes, really a force in this pack on defense. Beastie Bob still on her initial pass.
That little toe-stop dance by Jana is so hard to gauge when you're trying to put a hit on her.
Getting out past Cater for 5 points for Canada. Already 10 points on the jam for Team Canada. 35 seconds remaining on the jam clock. Jana meeting some resistance from Lull and from Miss Main at the back of the pack, and is called for a track cut. Power jam to Beastie Bob, but may not be enough time for Bob to do anything with it.
Well, but as Jana's just sitting down now, there's going to be 15 seconds left in this penalty when the next jam starts. So maybe it'll work out next jam for them.
Beastie Bob is still struggling to get through the pack on her initial pass. And time expires before that occurs. 1 more point for Jana before she was penalized.
270-22 is the score. 5.5 minutes remaining in this game. Kim Jana, again, you mentioned she skates for Terminal City. She actually broke her leg against Oli at the Big O this year. was unable to play in the WFTDA playoffs. Terminal City finishing 6th to Tampa Bay in that Sacramento tournament. Nice to see her back on the track. She's still in the Notorious RD penalty box. Bay is the only jammer on the track, though.
But Bay now called for a track cut of her own as her skates went out of bounds as she tried to skip up the inside line of the track. And so that power jam does not last. Jana still eligible to earn lead if she cleanly gets through the pack, which she does. So the power jam is on the other side of the scoreboard. Jana in now for points. Bay still seated in the Notorious RD penalty box. 5 up for Canada. And the scoring continues unabated. We have actually the last jam interrupted the little streak of jams there when Denmark was at least scoring. Now Bay is out of the penalty box through the pack, clear to score. Jana launched into the outfield by Rode, number 12. And there she calls it off.
She's got a big smile on her face, Brad. She knows she got hammered there.
Completely blown up.
278 to 20, 279 to 23. So Denmark with a single. 3 for Kim Jana before she had to peel herself off of the concrete after Rode had planted her there. Pedersen is going to take the star now for Denmark. Watson taking it for Team Canada. I love that roller derby girls always have huge smiles after they get annihilated on the track.
As part of why they play the sport. So Miss Main trying to get up the inside line. Watson does get up the inside line, out but not lead. Because the lead had been picked up by Miss Main. First lead call of the game for Denmark. They exercise it to hold Canada scoreless for what I believe is the first time in the game.
That is correct. Brad, example, and the Danish fans go wild. They're also dressed in red, so they kind of blend in with the Canadians. They can identify them by the Viking helmets that they're wearing. It's going to be number 8, Chris taking the star this time, and Sarah Heipel, number 989 for Canada.
Just under 3 minutes to go in the game. As usual, Canada holding the back of the pack, able to hang on to Chris. Well, Chris now pushing at the top of the pack. She's got Kamichiwa in front of her. Heipel at the back behind number 12 Rode that landed that huge hit in the last jam.
So the Danish defense really igniting in the last couple of jams, Brad.
Yes, they have managed to keep Canada to fewer than 10 points in the last 3 jams.
They held Heipel back for more than 30 seconds before she could get lead jammer in that jam.
Heipel now is lead. Spinning through the pack for 5 points, and the crowd liked that. Pushing on the outside. Chris is able to get out. Clear to score for Denmark. Heipel, who is lead, completes the scoring pass for 4 points and calls it off. 9 on the jam.
288 to 23. Yes, Heipel with 9 points. Brad, you are correct. We are under 2 minutes remaining in this game. Technically, Canada could drag this last jam out if they get lead jammer. Therefore, the Denmark need to get lead jammer. They send Beastie Bob to the line. And it's going to be Watson for Team Canada. This jam will be brought to you by Sure Grip Skate Company.
Beastie Bob pushing at the front. Denmark's defense has become a lot more effective during the course of the game at keeping the Canadian jammer at the back of the pack. Beastie Bob kind of struggling on her own to try and get past Canada's blockers. Everybody now coalescing in turn number 1, but now spreading back out again, and Watson is through and lead.
Again, holding her for 30 seconds, though. That defense just really coming alive in the second half of the second half.
Watson through the pack now for 5 points. This very well could be the final jam of the game, depending on the control exerted by Watson now. Watson pushing at the front of the pack.
Getting an assist from Little Mama.
Yes, Miss Main and Lull. Actually, I think it was Lull who was doing the great job of defending against Watson, who's now recycled through the outfield. But she goes to the inside line and finds her way through for 5 points.
Time expired on the game clock, onto the jam clock. This will be the last jam.
And there's only 30 seconds and change on that jam clock. Beastie Bob still struggling to get through the pack. It is Bandit who is hanging on at the front of the pack there with an assist also from number 84, Harvey. Beastie Bob seems to be thinking about taking the star off. Does not do so just yet. Both jammers are cycled through that pack. Only a couple seconds remain, and this will bring an end to this game. 3 final points for Team Canada. Barely pushing them over 300 points. It's 301 to 23, unofficial final. And we'll get that confirmed, but it does look like Canada's advancing.
It does indeed. 2 wins under their belt. They don't have any more games to play in their group, so that should be enough to move them through in the number 1 seed for group number 7. We talked about the defense of the Danes in the second half. Yes. Canada with 175 points in the first half, only 126 points in the second half. So a substantial reduction in point scoring by the Canadians in the second half. Really nice work by the Danes. They really brought it together, and I think the game against Argentina tomorrow will be a very interesting matchup. The Danes are still in this tournament. I mean, they are not relegated to the consolation side yet. They can still advance to the championship bracket.
True. Yeah. So if Denmark is able to bring it to the Argentinians, we'll see which one of them rebounds more successfully from their defeats to Canada. Canada moves on to definitely advances to the elimination bracket, and so we'll see how they do. Just as you were saying earlier, they placed second at the 2011 World Cup in Toronto. So, and I think we can see that they're a very strong team.
Yeah, they have a number of players who are retiring at the end of the year. They really want to get back to the championship game. They're going to be in tough. There are some really tough teams at the World Cup this year, but I know Canada happy to be able to book their trip to Saturday. If you're a Denmark fan or an Argentina fan, you want to tune in tomorrow, 2:20 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's in Dallas on track 1. Denmark plays Argentina. Winner of that game likely going.
So now out on the track now, Canada has taken their victory lap, but they're taking a page out of the London Roller Girls book and making what they call the London Bridge to celebrate their opponents taking their consolation lap, the Team Denmark. And we will be joined next on this track will be at 3:40 p.m. Central Time. Team USA taking on Puerto Rico.
A team that we have not seen, Puerto Rico, and a team that we know quite well, Team USA. So we will have to see how that works out. But for now, Captain Lou Albamo.
Brett Example. Thank you for joining us at the 2014 Blood and Thunder Roller Derby World Cup.